Coming at you, boom! I guess I still got it. Recently saw Longbox Review, just did a special 200th episode. He's done amazing podcast, and also I believe also on YouTube. Um, a lot of my friends are out there still kicking it hard with their videos, so true Marvel style, I decided to go ahead and add up all my visits on every separate show that I've ever done, my personal shows. Sometimes when I just talk to myself, I counted those. So, of course, hey, I decided to go and just call it 300. So there you go. I'm going to just talk about some of the books I've recently read, and I'm sure somebody will be interested. Anyway, speaking about Marvel, I've only got one Marvel book. The Winter Guard, this is number 2. When I talked to John at Demand at the shop, spoke briefly with him, he's like, oh, hey, isn't the Guard great? And I said, I honestly didn't remember what the first episode was, or issue. And so here I am with issue 2. I did like it. I like this take on the Russian Avengers idea, and I don't really know too much about them. It's one of those things where I was able to just touch in, see what I was able to do and enjoy. So I said, hey, let's go ahead and do that. So the one single only Marvel. So considering I used to be on Oddfellow Thoughts Roundtable discussion, I was the Marvel guy. It was almost all Marvel. Then they went to those awful covers that were thinner than the interior paper. I called it quits. They started making better quality books again, so I got back in. But there's just so many major titles that I'm not on. I'm not a Spider-Man guy. I'm not a major Avengers guy. So it's usually the bits and baubles around the outside of the main continuity that I enjoy. So there you go. I mean, and they don't have much of that out there right now. So, but you'll see that I'm getting back into more DC. Decided I kind of vaguely heard about it, and then I saw it on the shelf, so I decided I had to grab it. So here we are with Batman the Imposter. It was wonderful Andres Sorrentino artwork is what got me in there. I didn't really know much about Mattson Tomlin. It was a good story. I mean, it seemed like just a solid beginning of Batman, almost, because he looks younger. I guess that's why I'm saying beginning. They have discussion with Doc Thompson in here, and there's somebody who's impersonating Batman and doing awful deeds in his name, so he's got to figure out what he's going to do. It's Black Label, so, I mean, heavier. It's $6 book. Artwork 100% is what got me onto that one. So, biggity boom. Try not to drop too many books on my floor. Because of Tom Stu Divine, at Tom Stu Divine, because of at John on Demand, and the wonderful show at A Comic Book Look, I decided to go ahead and read Nice House on the Lake. I grabbed a bunch of the second printings, but it did get me into book 5, so I've enjoyed this wonderful independent feel on a black label. Tinian continues to crank out solid stories. It's a lot of those, once again, that there's so much mystery. I always worry about the payoff in the end, but Bueno's artwork in it is incredibly strong. I was a little unsure of it at first, but it seems to be getting better and better, so I'll dig into that. Sorry about the comments. Once again, I am about years out of practice with this, so as the comments keep popping up, I might try and peek in, see what it is, but I am really bad about getting comments, so I will strengthen on that. Superman and the Authority 4-4. I like this idea of assembling the team, a weaker Superman, getting a whole bunch of the new crew, people I didn't really know too much about. And of course, when I see these wonderful villains, that's another one that sucked me in here. The Hanin art was definitely part of it once again. I guess I'm not so much a Morrison fan when it comes to writing. The style seemed very superhero-like, so it was very easy to follow compared to some of his work. Um, Strange Adventures, once again, you'll see lots of Black Label. This one, I love the idea of sketching, making it look like the original cover, changing it to a 12. This was a good book. It was definitely one of those, the Doc Shaner art, Mitch Gerard's art, was more than the Tom King selling point. So, artwork is always, I guess, the sucker point for me. Definitely enjoyed it. I was loving it. And that was a good conclusion in my mind. It wrapped up nicely. It'll be interesting to see if they can take that anywhere else. Whenever I want to feel a little bit smarter, but truthfully I know how dumb I am, I read Checkmate. I bought one of the old runs. It was like 32 issues. And I always think Checkmate is, I always think Checkmate is going to be so much more easier to read than what it is. It's all this, intrigue. It's, the man from U.N.C.L.E. It's all this stuff, and of course with Bendis, I don't know, intentionally obscured ideas. But it was a Maliv art, once again. Art's what suckered me in, art's what got me going, so I've enjoyed it, loved the takes on some of the characters. It seems less Checkmate than previously, but I guess if you also enjoyed the previous event, Leviathan, this seems to tie in a lot with the Leviathan. I didn't even pick up all the Leviathan issues because the story was it was going nowhere for me, even with the Maliv art. So I still have to re-pick up a couple of issues of Leviathan, continue with my Checkmate, keep thinking that I'm smarter than I am to follow that, but and DC and IDW, so I mean this barely touches in, but because of the Sandman characters, Lock and Key has been a book I've loved for forever, so I said, hey, yeah, I gotta get my Lock and Key. And of course Rodriguez art has always been the big selling point. Joe Hill, writing has been solid. I definitely will say that his writing style is something I've definitely enjoyed. Started all in trades because I'm late to the party as usual. And then I got to, I believe, the 6th series of it, and I had to pick it up issue by issue so it wouldn't get spoiled. I loved it so much. So here I am, getting the Sandman crossover. I enjoyed it. It was a little out there, because it's Sandman, so I wasn't really sure on what I was doing. But solid. You can see a little Etrigan right there. That was a nice little touch. And thoroughly enjoyed it. So, Deathstroke Incorporated #1. This was Deathstroke. I always want to like the character more. It seems like I should. Sometimes, he's almost the Wolverine of DC. That I saw a run of it, I think it was New 52, where they blew off almost half of his head and brain, and he still kept going. So I dropped it at that point. I guess I like a little more realistic in my comic books. I don't know what to say about that. But this is interesting. He's working for a new company, and he's partnering with Black Canary. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I'm hoping it's just a mini, but right now it just says #1. And so Williamson, who just did a great Flash run, is writing it. So I think it's solid. And the Porter art in it was very nice, so I decided to go with that. Thank you, Sleepy. I've been enjoying a lot of Sleepy Readers videos. That's another reason why this kind of kicked me into gear. While I work, I play a lot of YouTube videos in the background while I'm doing paperwork, and it's been helpful. And very thankful for everybody who's still kicking out YouTube's podcasts and all that out there. Trying to sneak in my comics during the day. Right now I work overnights. That's why I'm recording at 10, 11 Central Time on this, because my schedule's all screwed up. During New Comic Book Day, when they kind of changed it to late August, I did pick up Seven Soldiers, Shining Knight, Grant Morrison, Simone Bianc. I mean, that's the artwork that's inside here. It's ferocious. It was wonderful. Of course, like I say, I keep buying all these Morrison books that are just far out there. And when he does his superheroes, it seems like that's a little bit easier for me to follow than some of his crazier work. Shining Knight, I truly enjoy. I really like the whole idea of the medieval, the Dungeons and Dragons, all that kind of books. So I enjoyed this style as it dipped into the DC universe. Added on to that, I also got Seven Soldiers, Clarion once again. I keep saying it, but, like Grant Morrison, I don't normally follow, but Grant Morrison, the superhero, I guess I enjoy a lot. The Fraser Irving art also was the thing that just kind of threw me. I find every once in a while that I just have to dip in deep on some of these, so there's a great 4 issues on that. Loved the book. And then I got into someone else's podcast that was talking about weird war tales from DC, so I decided to grab 1 issue of that. And my store didn't really have too many, so dug back as far as I kind of could to see what I got there. And so, yes, Morrison does add a lot to the DC universe. And I think that is, I mean, when there's some kind of restraints maybe, and I can't imagine they can restrain him too much, but I think when he doesn't have this far out galactic thought, that when he has to ground it somewhat, it's a little easier for me to follow. My independent books, I picked up 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. Not really sure what I was going to get into when I got it. It was a nice little light, fun read. Definitely not deep at all. So, I mean, if you can get it at a cheap price, I'd say it's a fun, light read. Enjoy. Some of the stuff on it's interesting. There's some weird ads, or they treat some things in here like you could join his club, like you used to be able to do in the 70s and 80s with this stuff. I picked up A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance because nobody talked about it. It's Rick Remender, and the artwork. I do not know the artist. It was very interesting. It was just about this hard luck character who looks like he's trying to do good, and then he gets to a house where he's going to involve himself in some sketchy activities, and it seems to go very south for him. So I'd say if you're looking for something really different, really weird, if you can grab it off the shelf, it was just this last Wednesday. Enjoyed it. It was a very interesting book. Once again, it was easier to read not having any preconceived notions going in. I too often do it, and I'm disappointed because of what I've already written in my head or thought of. So that was a nice one. I picked up Out, 105 by Upshot, AWA. This one I've been dabbling in a couple of their different books. They always seem to be movie pitches, and this one seems to be a horror book I've seen multiple times before, where the Nazis are digging up some kind of monster because they know it's getting to be the end, and they're hoping to figure out something to save themselves. It also touches on that Road of Bones series I kind of read, where there is a old world European monster or something that some people have knowledge of and some don't. This also has a Navajo talker. There's a captured group of Americans, British, French, that are in a German war camp. And the Navajo speaker, of course, is the one and only by himself because he knows multiple languages. He stands out by himself because people think he's a traitor or that there's something bad about that. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. There's a lot of character development and then the monster payoff towards the end. So once again, thankful to Sleepy Reader as he explained to me why I only had a 4-issue oversized large cover of Adventure Man. Love it. Love this Dodson art. Fraction does a great job also with writing the story. But it was like 1 through 4 issues. this great price on the thing, and then Sleepy Reader, like I said, let me know that he's leaving all the big books with a cliffhanger on the last one, so that you have to dive into the next one to get the conclusion of your story. Smart to some degree, unless you piss somebody off. It worked. I mean, I loved it. I keep preaching about it. I want everybody to read Adventure Man. I just loved it. I just loved all this work. So, once again, thanks to Sleepy Reader and some other people's talking about it, I picked up Echolands. Here's the second book of it. The G.H. Williams artwork in here is, of course, I believe Oddfellow Thoughts originally let me onto the idea of his Batwoman run, and that was the thing that really hooked me and got me going into the idea of really exploring some people's art. This also, of course, is very unique with the whole, it's a $5 book. Artwork spreads out that way, long flowing splash in almost every one, so it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of artwork, so I can't wait to see how that goes, especially how this is going to get collected. That's the thing that's driving me crazy, is trying to figure that one out. Crossover Donny Cates. And you probably can't see it very well. I got a Paybacks poster here in the comic cave. Donny Cates, L.A. Rowell were favorites of mine with the Paybacks, so I jumped into this Donny Cates. Jeff Shaw is the artist. Crossover book. It was an idea that the cartoon characters have crashed into somewhere in Colorado, I believe. They've got a dome containing all their craziness in there, and little by little some of it has spilled out, or people had gotten out before the dome had fully formed. It used a lot of the Payback characters, so I decided that it was awesome. I wanted to get it for that reason too. And it's samplings. I mean, Madman, I don't really know much about him, so this might get me into the idea of checking out some old Madman comics. And otherwise, I mean, on issue 8, it's been enjoyable. There's been a couple samplings of some other writers during the time when they had to recharge from the storyline, so enjoyed it. Lastly, Die, number 20. Boom. Idea of kids playing the Dungeons and Dragons that get caught in the game, they come back into the real world, but there's been some repercussions, some time has passed, and then they finally have to go back into the world again to fix some things. Being 20 issues wrapped up, I enjoy it. Thank you very much for wrapping up, making a solid story. I'm going to have to reread this to fully get some of the subtext of that story. But otherwise, it was, like I said, kids playing games, jumping back and forth from a real world to a D&D world. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. So, yeah, that was pretty much it. So that's been kind of my comic book reading. A lot of independence, a lot of DC right now. Weird outliers of Marvel and that kind of stuff. We recently had SuperCon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I did not get to it. Once again, working my overnights didn't quite work out for me. Like I said, follow John on Demand and Tom Stu Divine on Twitter, and a comic book look. Also, of course, the podcast of a Wednesday Comics did a great job there too. They, I think, hosted Phil Hester, and they've done that a couple times. It sounded like it went amazing. It sounded like people were able to interact very well. It's South Dakota, so how we handle COVID is very red state, and we respect all those who wear masks. You'll find a lot of people don't. You'll find a lot of people are on the far end of each of that argument, so I'll probably drop it right there. I mean, I can't imagine. On if there'll be, they're going to continue doing SuperCon every year. It's probably in the fall. If you ever decide to look at the Sioux Falls area, August, September time frame. So Definitely hope everybody out there is reading the books they enjoy, enjoying the stuff that they got, grabbing all the good stuff before all that's left is just the I don't know, the stuff you can't sell on the shelves. So right now, I guess I'm just rambling on. So now it'll be very interesting to watch me figure out how to end a live one. I don't know that I've done this in a long time. So once again, I'm thankful for everybody who does watch the video. Special guest star was supposed to be Night Guard. I guess I got a message Night Guard was not going to be able to make it. Please continue to support me, him, anybody who throws shade on him, like that Meanwhile at the podcast, a wonderful show. Hope people are enjoying all the comic book and comic book adjacent things that we get to encompass. Thankful for everybody that's in the community. I just got a minute before I had to go out and shop and all that good stuff. So hoping everybody is loving life. So catchphrase, everybody. Beep 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 boop beep bump coming up.